lot of interruptions is a no-go, I guess. We're still getting interrupted. But, okay. Crap talk. Craps. I uploaded a video about Hail Marys. Beginner crap stuff. Well, I really don't think you should do Hail Marys. Like field dumps and all that. They're just bad plays. You'd even be better off just putting your money in your pocket and leaving. I did put some stuff in there on, like, if you are going to do a Hail Mary, the stuff I think is better. Like, I think it's better if you're going to put all your money on something, you should probably put it on a lay or a place bet. Something where you're either going to gain a probability advantage or you're going to gain a payout advantage. Just dumping it in the field at a 1-to-1 bet, it's most likely not going to hit the double. Even then, you're at less than a 50% chance to win the bet. It's just not a good play. The field's a great bet when you put it with other things, but by itself, the field's not great, and especially in a Hail Mary situation where you're just throwing the rest of your chips in there hoping. I mean, you're going to win less than half of them. So even with doubles and triples added in, you're still going to lose money overall. That one was a little harder for me because I didn't really know how to correlate it into a dice roll. Hello, everybody. And so I tried to kind of figure out a way to roll it out like that. But it was kind of hard to roll. It took me a minute to figure out how to even kind of roll it. But again, I don't think you should do stuff like that. If you're getting frustrated, you're getting on tilt, and you're going to put all your money on something, lay a bet or just place a bet or something. Don't throw it in the field, guys. And don't get me wrong, there's going to be times it works, and you double up, and hey, yay! But man, most of the time it doesn't work. If you had, for example, if you had like $70 left, you're really better to go like 66. Play 66. You may not win all 66, but you're going to have a lot of chances to hit some money. And so I see a lot of those field dumps, and I see a lot of people playing chunky bets in the field. Now, sometimes, like yesterday, I watched a lady do it a bunch, and she was winning. And it does work sometimes, and that's what's really confusing about it. Is that sometimes you do see it work, and you're like, oh yeah, that's the one I want to play because it's got the most combinations to win. But and that's one of the things, it's like the first time people go gamble, a lot of times they win and then they get hooked. They don't realize that there's a dark side to gambling as well. So the field is kind of the same way in craps. The field is very similar in craps. It's kind of like, the dark side of the craps. Not necessarily dark side play, but like, it's kind of like it's a really tricky, luring bet. And that's why it's so big on every craps table. And it's all pretty, the field is always done up. And it'll have like flowery stuff in it, or it'll have like really big, bold doubles and triples, and because they want you to put your money there, because you have less than a 50% chance to win it, so they want you to stick your money there. And I'm just, the reason I harped on the field in the video so much was because that's the one you see most people do, and that's the most common like Hail Mary play. If I am in this Hail Mary situation, which usually, if I'm going to put all my money on the table, like I did it the rest of what I was going to play the other day, I play place bets. I give myself a chance. Maybe it goes on a long roll, and I make a chunk. And I decide if I am going to do something like that, where I'm just going to put all my money on the table, I try to get as many combinations of winners as I can. and hopefully you get a good roll. I mean, at that point, you're more gambling and less playing strategy. You're just kind of gambling. And sometimes gambling pays off, it does. But most of the time, on that Hail Mary type stuff, I don't do it. That's right. Yep, they want you to put the money in it. That's awesome, man. It's awesome, Donald Fuller. But yeah, so betting on bet, and I'm not saying the field's a bad bet. The field's a just fine bet if you use it with other things. I mean, yeah, it makes total sense. But just all by itself, really, in any instance, it's less than effective. Even if you're frequency play on it, even if you saw 5 non-field numbers in a row and you're like, okay, I'm going to start playing it until it hits, you better be willing to progress. You better be willing to bad play. That's a just fine play. If you're going to do that, you better have the balls and the bankroll to go on and stick it out if it goes 3 or 4 more rolls without hitting. Because there's a good chance that it won't. There's a really good chance that it won't hit for a couple more rolls, And so that's one of the instances where I do think the field is okay by itself, is if you use, it's like based on a frequency. But even then, you still have to really be willing to go for it. But in other craps news, I don't have any other craps news. I am headed to the work. The work gave me a phone call and said, we need you to arrive here at 6:30. Which is okay. I mean, it's my job, so it's okay to go. Yeah, bummer. I mean, it's, I make $24 plus an hour to go there, so it's worth my time, I guess. Sure, don't come in the field's great. Sure, that makes sense. Especially like some of the don't come plays, it's almost like if you for example, if you win on the don't come on the roll, like a 2 or a 3, you also won in the field. So I mean, it's a good deal. It's a way to play. But you like hedging the field or whatever, like with a don't come. I mean, you're not hedging the field because you still have all the other loser numbers. It's just because you take the 7 away, it's still not good. It's still not great. I do think it puts you in the advantage, maybe, or makes it a 50-50 play, maybe. But I mean, I'm not knocking the field. I'm just knocking the field by itself, and knocking the field as like your Hail Mary. There's much better things to do. And from a probability standpoint, placing the 6 or 8 is basically like playing the field. So the big difference is it's not a 1-roll bet, and you don't lose on the 5 or the 6 or the 8 or the 7. You only lose on the 7. So if you're going to do it, you should probably, if you want that similar, close to even coin flip type thing, you should just play the 6 or the 8, because that's it's 6 to 5 odds there. Where the field is essentially, it's 56 to 44, which is kind of like 6 to 5. I think I said 7 to 6 in the video. Yeah, the field helps the 12, that's right. And I meant 6 to 5 in the video, but I think I said 7 to 6. But again, I just see it a lot. I see that field dump a lot. And if you'll avoid plays like that, if you'll just avoid bad plays on the craps table, you'll do good. You'll have plenty of good days if you'll just avoid the bad plays. If you'll just stay out of the horn a lot, I'm not saying never play the horn, but playing the horn incrementally is different than playing it every now and then, just guessing at it. When you, if you're just going to guess at the horn, you're going to most likely lose most of the time. Now, if you're going to play it as like an all-day bet or, bumping it up consistently, you're probably going to do pretty well with it, because you're going to play it every roll, which is going to, then you're going to get, the averages are going to work out for you, and you're going to get the payouts. But, so the horn is kind of one of those deals. If you're going to play, you really need to play it all the time. Playing just, now don't get me wrong, there is situational horn plays, like for don't bets or for pass line or come bets. Sure, you can play and hedge out the loser. But just as every now and then saying, give me a $5 horn or something, most likely that you're just throwing chips away at that point, because the horn is 16.5% chance to hit, so it's like the 7. But if you're not playing it all the time, that's a really hard percentage to hit. It's a really hard. Yeah, the horn is tricky. It is. It's one of the trickier ones to be good at, to be good and profitable. Because really, you have to have kind of a separate set of money for the horn if you're going to be a consistent player in the horn. So you kind of got to have its own group of money to bet with on it. That way you can just be consistent on it. The horn is tricky. The horn is probably one of the trickiest bets in craps, I would say. Betting those bets and betting those bets profitably. A lot of times it takes a big bankroll, and also you have to kind of be stubborn with it. You have to just be really stubborn. That way you stick it out until there is that run of horn numbers where 2 or 3 or 4 of them hit in a row, or 4 hit out of 5 rolls, and this happens, where that stuff happens, and you're able to make some money on it. It is a profitable way to play. You just have to be really stubborn, and you just have to have some money, because it's expensive. Every roll that's not a horn number, you lose, so it can be very expensive. But other than that, I mean, pretty much any place bet is a reasonable Hail Mary type bet if you're going to do that, because the probability and the odds kind of counteract each other to make all of those bets basically like a coin flip, are relatively close to one. Because even if you buy the 4 or the 10, like let's say you had $60 left and you buy it, you're only going to be able to buy it for like 57 or something like that. But let's say you buy it for 50. All right. Yeah, I get you're going to lose 6 times, but the 3 times you win, you're going to win double. So it's essentially like the coin flip, where the 5 and the 9 are not quite as good. They're going to be a little less than the 4 and the 10, and the 6 and 8 are going to be a little better than 5 and 9, and a little less than the 4 and 10. And I've actually showed that on a video recently. But if you're going to Hail Mary, that's kind of playing the place bets, or playing a lay bet, or playing a don't bet is okay if you think. Sorry, you guys. Oh yeah, well, the buy on the 6 and 8 really never works out. But if they'll let you buy the 5 and 9, I think once you get over, it's only like at like $20, it changes in your favor. Because you're only giving up $1, but 20 wins 30 or whatever, instead of 20 wins 28. So I think at $20 is when, if you can buy the 5 and 9, it's actually more profitable. So yeah, but buying the 6 and 8, I don't know where it changes to be profitable, but I think it takes a minute. Not everywhere will let you buy the 5 and 9. I've been to a lot of places that don't do it. When you're able to buy the bets, guys, you actually are turning, for house edge players, when you buy the bets, you're actually turning the odds significantly in your favor. That's a pretty big deal. When you're able to buy that 5 and that 9, it really, really turns it way closer to even. So for house edge guys, you should be looking for places that allow you to do that, because that's one of the ways to really cut out on that house edge if you play by that. So, because if you think about it, then you're only losing $1 instead of essentially $2 or $4 or $5 or whatever it is. It's a significant difference. $1 to $2, that's 100% different. So, if you calculated that up, so buying bets is one of the best ways to gamble on the craps table. So that's why buying the 4 and 10 is actually a pretty good play. You're getting the same probability as the 7, so you have the same number of ways to win, same number of ways to lose. And then so buying the 4 and 10 matters. It's a good play. Because if you think about it, let's say you buy the 4 for 20, you buy the 10 for 20. All right, so that cost you $2 to do it. If you win one time, you're going to win 40. Okay? Minus 2, so you're going to win 38. Well, you only have 40 invested. So if you can win one time before the 7, you're essentially playing for $2 at that point. And so it's a pretty good play. It just really is. Like when me and Larry, when we went to the casino yesterday, there was a couple runs of shooters. If you would have only played the 4, you would have made hundreds and hundreds of dollars, because there was just tons of 4s, just whole bunches and bunches of 4s. I like buying after. I like that frequency move there. Buying after 2 7s. I like it. But so, yeah, the 4 and 10 make a ton of sense from a buy standpoint or from a lay standpoint, because it essentially just works in reverse on the lay. You're going to lose 3 times and you're going to win 6. And it's still basically works out to the exact same thing, kind of. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing with the bet. But I don't think you should lay both the 4 and the 10. Like, I do think you should buy both the 4 and 10, but I don't think you should lay both. And the reason being is because then you lose your probability advantage. So at that point, I feel like you're in the negative, actually, a little more than just laying one of them. And the reason being is because if you just lay the 10, then you have 6 ways to win, 3 ways to lose. But if you lay both the 4 and the 10, you have 6 ways to lose and 6 ways to win. Now, I get that you're going to win twice for every 7, so it's kind of like it evens itself out there. But I just don't like the idea of, I feel like you're going to do better by just having the one bet. I think you're going to, because you have less chance of getting knocked off of one of them. Right? So, for example, these situations, you'll be rolling, and you have your lay 4 and 10, and the 4 gets knocked off. All right? You put it back up. Well, now you're down a whole play. All right? So even when you do win, you don't win back that play. You just, it's still the same. It's still even. So I just don't like laying both of them. And it's a personal preference thing. And also, I like to be able to use those as light side winners. I like to be able to use that number, one of those numbers, as light side winners. So, for example, like if you laid the 10 for, let's say, $50, and you bought the 4 for $20, so now you gain 3 ways to win. Now the 7 obviously isn't as valuable, but you essentially can take advantage of both sides of it. And that was a very small example, but I mean, all I'm getting at is I don't like to lay them together. I put some blender stuff in the video too. It's the next video coming out. Some different blender, a little bit of blender, and I know a lot of people kind of went away from the blender, and there's reasons for that, obviously, because you're continuously playing against the hardest come out roll in the blender, which it's difficult to beat it. And then not only as you get more bets up there, you're playing through the come out roll and also a bet on the table. So sometimes the blender can be very difficult. But if you play the blender big, no, it's not. The probability hasn't changed. What do you mean the probability hasn't changed? But if you play the blender big, it's a much better play. The bigger you can play it. Andrew, are you saying every roll is independent of each other? So you're saying that every single roll is independent of each other? Is that what you're saying? I mean, yeah, that sounds all right. Okay, so if I roll 5 10s in a row, are you going to bet that I'm going to roll a 6? You're not. I know you're not. Nobody in their right mind would. All right, if I roll 3 sevens in a row, if I roll 3 sevens in a row, are you going to bet that I'll roll a fourth in a row? I mean, the 7 is the most probable number. What I'm saying is that I do understand where you're coming from. Okay, yeah, sure. I'm not saying it never happens. What I'm saying is that what gets mixed up in that statement you're making, that every roll is independent, is that they're not taking into account likelihood in frequency. Okay, so basically, if you're rolling 1 7 is 16% chance, right? But rolling back-to-back sevens, since that's a very significant exact situation, it's not 16% on each roll. All right, and then on the third one, the times that happens isn't 16% of the time. So there's a likelihood in there. There's a frequency in there. I hope you adjust your way of thinking on that eventually. I do. Because it's a very closed way of thinking about craps, and I've had a lot of people argue this point to me. It's a very closed way of thinking about it. And honestly, if you do think about it in that fashion, you should only ever play the 7, because that's the most probable bet on the table. So you should actually only ever play it, and then just adjust from there incrementally, up until you hit a 7. So no. I mean, I will. I'll try to record it. I'll try to record that exact situation. Every time I roll 2 sevens, I'll write it down and say, okay, the next roll was this, and see if it comes out to 16%. Because I'm almost willing to guarantee you it won't. 16% of the time, I will not roll a third 7. 16% of the times I roll 2 sevens, I will not roll a third one. I just won't. And I know this, and this is one of the things that I feel like in craps that people don't take advantage of. I just think they don't take advantage of the frequency enough. And what's funny to me is, okay, so house edge is essentially based on frequency. It's based on a 36 combination pyramid and the money payout odds that go along with it. All right. So when you break down the math, it's okay, this one should win this many times out of this. This one should win this many times. Well, since the payout isn't exactly equal, it's worth this much money. All right. Well, you're using frequency. You're saying that it's going to win 4 times out of 36. It's, you're using that. So if you get a weird run one way or the other, it kind of destroys house edge at that point. And that's why I always say house edge is a flawed calculation. It's a calculation based on one single bet. It's not based on how craps is actually played. And so so a lot of math people, they don't see that. They just see the single individual math. All right. Okay, the probability is this, the house edge is this. Yeah, I get that. But that's not how the game is played. Okay, right. I get it. If you played one single bet the whole time, you're absolutely right. You played one single bet, never played anything else, and you played it at exactly the same amounts all the time, you're right. The house edge is gonna hold true, because that's exactly what house edge says. But if you play 5 different bets and then 3 different bets and then 20 different bets, I mean, it's it's not a way to look at the game. It just isn't. And I've argued that a lot, and I'll argue it forever because I've never in my life played using house edge as the influencer on my bets, and I do just fine. So anyways, guys, I got to run in here and get some lunch. And you guys have a great day. Thank you for riding to work with me.